Today we're discussing the first episode of the second season to Jeremy Clarkson's reality docuseries Clarkson's Farm. As the title implies, the premise of the show is about an outspoken television personality in his 60s who decides he wants to try his hand at the agriculture game, where he contends with rocky weather, disobedient animals, and unresponsive crops. The name of the episode is Surviving. It's February 15th. Welcome to today's episode. Jeremy Clarkson, English journalist, television presenter, polarizing personality. You know him from Top Gear, The Grand Tour, the host, or the current host of UK's Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. There's no
really?
Yeah, for the last couple of years. No shortage of controversies that he's been involved in, starting with racial slurs that he said on air, being physically abusive. That's what got him fired from Top Gear originally. And in 2009, in regards to climate change, he said, everything we've been told for the past 5 years by the government, Al Gore, Channel 4 News, and hippies everywhere is a big bucket of nonsense. So
he said all of that. And see, it's crazy that he did all those things because he's such a likable presence here.
Is he?
It seems, I knew his political views, but it seemed like this was a show that was kind of like why make people to care about the environment.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to come in and just trash him. So I was going to start with a game where he's also done some kind of interesting, fun stuff. And I wanted to see if you could guess which of these things he didn't do, because 3 of them he did. Ready?
Okay.
He punched Piers Morgan in the face. That's A. B is in 2008, him and the other Top Gear crew, this was one of their episodes, I think, drove through deeply conservative rural Alabama with painted cars that said Hillary for president, man love rules okay, and NASCAR sucks. All right.
Okay.
C is in 2019, he came out publicly saying that he now believes in climate change after years of being vocally against it.
Okay. That one
and
seems
the
true.
last one, Clarkson went from making $891,000 in 2014 while filming Top Gear to earning around $12.3 million a year on the set of the Grand Tour. Of that, he donates all but $891,000, his original salary, to a charity. And he does it out of spite.
Hold on, you're saying that
he takes his original salary.
No, I understand, but one of these is fake?
One of these isn't true.
Okay, well, it's obviously the Piers Morgan one, because you said that all the rest he's done are good things.
Well, the Piers Morgan one, it's like, depending on how you think of that guy, that one's actually true.
That one's true?
Three times in the face. And then he wrote an article about it.
Okay, is it the Hillary one where the Alabama?
Nope, that's true too. That did happen.
I have no idea what.
The last one, the one where he donates most of his salary because he's upset about. That one's all fake. But overall, I think what the real question is what do you think of Jeremy Clarkson? Not about the show, but like going into the show.
As a person, he's probably the one out of Top Gear, which I never watched consistently, that I knew the least about. Richard Hammond was always my favorite. James May, I know that he has like a docuseries. I think that's on Amazon Prime or something else, but I watched like a couple episodes of that. That was pretty interesting. And then, Jeremy Clarkson's, I only ever knew about Clarkson's Farm, but I didn't know what it was actually about.
You also knew that it has amazing reviews.
Yeah,
the first season that came out during the pandemic.
Yeah, it's like a 9 on IMDb or something. Like it's in the top high on the top 250.
So you went in with high expectations. The only question I had was you watched Bering Seagold a long time ago for
that was
the podcast.
One of our first that we did.
Yeah, and it was all about the competition of money and trying to get the most gold, obviously, and in the biggest payday by the end of the day, right?
Uh-huh.
This feels sort of similar from just the episode description that I've got. Clarkson attempts to diversify his farm's revenue sources, having only made 144 pounds last year.
Yeah, so what this is about, and the reason why it's called Surviving, is because, first off, it's July of 2021 in the UK at Jeremy Clarkson's farm, Diddley Squat, and he's having to harvest a lot of new wheat for durum, which apparently is used a lot in pasta. But thanks to Brexit, there's subsidies have been completely cut farmers are being screwed over left and right. They're showing different clips of farmers being like, we just do not have the money. And on top of all of that, there's all these different rules that they have to follow that the farmers aren't given. In fact, Clarkson even...
Wait, when you say not given...
He compares it to FIFA, where it would be like if FIFA came out, the company, and then told all the soccer teams, we have all these rules, and then the soccer teams are like, okay, what are they? Like, they have to be crazy if they're going to change the rules at this point. And then FIFA were to just be like, oh no, we have the rules, but we're not going to tell you.
That sounds like YouTube.
yeah, YouTube guidelines. I that's a good comparison as well. So what Jeremy Clarkson decides to do is he decides to still harvest wheat, but he also wants to get cows to help with the soil, to help fertilize everything.
So I heard this has to do with cows a little bit. He goes out and buys some, right?
Yeah, he buys 12 with the help of someone named Charlie. There's Charlie and Caleb. Those were really his two sidekicks.
Caleb's like the big one, right?
Yeah.
He kind of guides him on everything.
And I felt so bad for Caleb in this episode because at the beginning of the episode, first off, it has a great soundtrack. You start off with A Hazy Shade of Winter from Simon and Garfunkel, but then it like goes straight into Baba O'Reilly from The Who.
Baba O'Reilly?
Baba O'Reilly from The Who, yeah. And Caleb talks about like how that was his grandfather's favorite song and how like he died.
And they could just play that?
But yeah, they played and it was cool. But the thing about Caleb was that he gets mad at Jeremy Clarkson, kind of rightfully so, midway through the episode, because Jeremy Clarkson, instead of like helping to harvest the wheat, is deciding to get his like tires changed for no reason. He talks about his grandfather dying. And then at the very end of the episode, after Caleb has helped Jeremy Clarkson throughout the whole entire thing, Jeremy Clarkson is getting the cows and he's like, sadly Caleb couldn't come today because his dog is being put down. So it was like Caleb had helped him throughout this whole thing.
So you weren't feeling bad for him because like Jeremy Clarkson kept on bashing him or anything. No. It was more just like terrible stuff kept happening to him.
Yeah, but also the thing about Jeremy Clarkson is that he doesn't have the kind of dick. He's like not a dick in this show. He really is like he's what makes this show so great.
He's the heart of the show.
He comes across, yeah, he's definitely the heart. He comes across very nice, and he seems like he actually really wants to help the environment. And I really enjoyed all 42 minutes, I think it was, that I was watching. One of the finish up on the cow storyline, he wants to get chickens and he wants to like release the chickens so the chickens will help spread the like fertilizer.
Yeah.
And then also he wants to open up a restaurant and part of his farm in order to just make more money.
All right, and like what you were talking about with Caleb, he's had an interview since where he said in the first season Clarkson was so new to everything, he would just listen to everything that he said. But by season 2, he had kind of gotten the ropes to just the simple aspects, and so he would start to question Caleb, and that was sort of annoying.
You know, it's actually, I felt the exact opposite in this episode. Jeremy Clarkson, whenever he's talking about getting cows with Charlie, or whenever he's talking about building the restaurant with this guy named Alan, who says that it's going to be like something crazy, like 250,000 pounds or something like that.
Wow. Do you want to hear some car facts? Do you want to hear some cow facts? It's not a game, I promise. It's just some weird stuff. So, did you know that cows chew up to 8 hours a day?
8 hours? They don't go through that in the show.
They're chum chewers. And then average body temperature for a cow. Take a guess.
I don't know what it would be.
What's an average body temperature for a human?
It's like 98.6, right?
Yeah. So, for a cow, hotter or colder?
I'm going to go with colder?
No, they're mammals. 102 degrees Fahrenheit.
102 degrees.
Yes, right? They keep themselves warm. And 1850s, nearly every family in the U.S. had its own cow.
Wait, what? Really?
Yeah, it was like a dog, basically.
Yeah, well, what I was going to say was
family cow.
When they went to go get cows, like, you can tell Jeremy Clarkson even says it through his dialogue. He does not know what's going on. Like, Charlie's negotiating with the cow breeders, talking about how much money they're going to need and the different type of cows they're going to get. And Jeremy Clarkson literally just lets Charlie take the reins. And then when they shake hands, Jeremy Clarkson says to the cow breeders, he's like, I don't know what I just paid for, but sure. And also that's the same thing with the restaurant, where Alan starts bringing up all the different things they're going to need. Ventilation, the different type of food they're going to have. They're going to have to like break down and build up different parts of the farm.
Yeah,
and
all these different expenses.
And Jeremy Clarkson is just like, I didn't think it was going to be that difficult. I thought it was just going to be something we could just open up.
But he still continues to go through with it. Like, he doesn't backtrack. He doesn't try to think of a different idea.
Yeah, I feel like the restaurant thing is going to be probably a full season. Like, that's going to probably take the full season, because the cow storyline, it's going to also be the full season, but he first gets the cows at the end of the episode. And then also...
you get to see all of them?
Yeah.
How many are there?
There's about 12 of them.
Only 12. Okay. I'm thinking of like back in the Western days where they'd have a ton of cattle that they would just need to like 1923. That's where I'm getting it from. Yeah.
It was cool seeing them though, because you also get different wildlife as well. You get deers in the intro scene. You get bees. I assume that they had something to do with the prior season because he's talking about pollinating for a little bit.
Does it make you want to have a farm?
Not really, no, because you see how much work they have to put into it. One thing that was absolutely crazy about this episode and the main storyline was really them just trying to harvest this durum wheat over and over and over again. And
in the tractors.
Yeah, and what they do is they test the soil moisture, and it's at 15.3 when they're originally doing it, and that's a good place where it needs to be at. But after they go through so much harvesting in one day, they test the soil again. It's at 15.8 instead of 15.5, and 15.5 is like the maximum that's supposed to be. So it was way too high. So they had to like redo everything, and they have like this big storage area, and if they don't keep it up to date, then you'll see weeds start to grow in this in like all of this wheat.
I don't envy farmers.
Yeah, it's a crazy job, and especially when you hear about all the subsidies that are being cut with Brexit and how Brexit really just screwed over all these farmers, you just feel bad for them.
Jeremy Clarkson was also outspoken, first about climate change, but then also about Brexit. So
well, see, that was the thing. That was the thing that was interesting to me as well, because he narrates it over the show, and he said that Brexit was tumultuous, and I was like, again, I thought that the guy was conservative, so
he was vocally like upset with people for not, like, he was upset with younger voters for not coming out and saving the EU, or that the British stay with the EU, and he was also mad at the older population for voting themselves out.
So, yeah, because I think that like there's no EU grants at all that they have. I mean, they go into it a little bit in the episode, and you just there's no way you don't feel some type of empathy for these people that are putting their lives on the line.
I know that the U.S. subsidizes like so much of the farming, as far as like, and that still hasn't helped too much. Like a lot of family-owned farms have gone out of business over the last 20 years, like crazy. There's so many documentaries about this, and then people having to give up their own cattle and their own cows and being close with them.
One thing that I did not like in this episode is when they go to the cow place, they like zoom in on cows defecating. Oh. It's not fun to watch.
They did that on all nature documentaries.
But that was that this one, it felt like they were almost doing it to piss off the viewer, and I did not like seeing
I did
it.
save one cow fact, and it's how many hamburgers do you think one cow makes?
Oh my god, I think I
quarter
knew
pound
this at
hamburgers.
some point. Quarter pound?
Yeah, quarter pounders.
I'm gonna go on a low estimate because I feel like it's gonna be really high, maybe 12.
You think that they only get 12 hamburgers per cow?
Oh.
2,000. If can you imagine if they only got 12 hamburgers per cow, how bad that would be?
2,000?
Yes, they can get 12. Cows are big, man.
I know cows are big, but like also it's just the body, right?
It's you ground beef, you just grind them up. Yum. Anyways, so you don't think that like young farmers who are trying to get into the business would like this show, or do you think that they would jump on it?
The show's very educational.
Cool.
If you want to get into farming, I would recommend you watch this show, and I imagine that that's how the first season is as well.
Apparently, when Caleb like first talked to Jeremy Clarkson about like his resume and all that he was doing, he left him awestruck. This is also something I read in an interview, because he not only does just the farming part, he also juggles between farm contracting, digger for hire, egg enterprise, sheep farming, pig rearing, and then now he's a cider producer and a bestseller.
The guy seemed to know his stuff. The thing that I found funny is there's a part by the end of the episode when they're building a fence because they're about to get the cows the next day, where Jeremy Clarkson is like, "You were born in the 20th century, right?" And he's like, "No, I was born in 1998.
Yeah, wow. I mean, that still is technically the 20th century, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah. One of the other people that I haven't mentioned yet that Jeremy Clarkson does work with, along with Caleb, it's really during the harvesting thing, is Simon. He is a different trucker that they have. I was wondering, do you have like any information about the side people aside from Caleb?
Only Caleb, and I know that his girlfriend's also on the show, right?
Yeah, they mentioned his girlfriend, but I don't think
you don't see her in this one?
They do. They like he had a baby. Apparently, I think his baby's name was Oscar. That's something that they
Jeremy
do show.
Clarkson had a baby.
No. Caleb had a baby.
Oh, Caleb had a baby.
At the beginning of the episode, they show a picture of, I think his name was Oscar, and yeah, so that was a development that happened. And also, Jeremy Clarkson said that they had been like close to a year since they had started filming, which made me think to myself, since this was in July of 2021, they must have been filming during COVID, or maybe
absolutely.
Right before COVID.
Yeah,
okay, so
COVID hit, I think, in the first season pretty early on, so they had to like talk about that and do that, and that's what made the show kind of interesting. As far as comparing it to Barry and Seagold, by the end they weren't like counting the dimes and nickels to find out how much they had earned for that
No,
week.
Baron Siegel, I mean, was a competition. This was just more.
This feels like a competition, though. The way, like, by the end, they want to be a successful farming industry, so it's like just a long-term competition.
Yeah, but again, with the episode name being survival, it's not because they want to. It's literally like that's the only way this farm is going to stay up if they get enough money.
Not that Jeremy Clarkson can't afford to put some more in there, but yeah.
I will say that information flies by a mile a minute in this show, and they will not stop to like go into the vocabulary at all.
Oh, I heard they didn't put subtitles on a dude because and he like speaks nonsense the whole time. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I know. Jeremy Clarkson was cracking up during that bit. It wasn't the fact that they didn't put subtitles on him. It was the fact that you would see maybe 2 or 3 words over the radio, because it was mostly over the radio, and then it would just say inaudible because the guy literally could not, like, you did not understand like a single word that he was saying. But I was talking more when, like, for example, when they were going to get the cows, they start bringing up different, like a woman's name for a cow or something like that, and just different vocabulary that I was not able to catch. To recap the pros, though, the soundtrack was great. Then the up-close shots of them harvesting, they, like, slow it down and they go, like, whenever they do zoom-in shots, it was really cool. Jeremy Clarkson, again, he's a good host, very educational. It's always interesting seeing them fix, like, so many problems that arose in this episode and so many things that they had to, like, kind of figure out.
So, like, good real drama?
Yeah, and also it's not just, like, a docu-series that has a big star attached that does some narration and then leaves. Not like the Welcome to Earth show with Will Smith or some of the other ones we've done, where it just feels like they're kind of cashing in on their name and doing pretty easy stuff.
Now, if Will Smith had slapped Piers Morgan, though, I feel like he would have gotten a bigger pass. Yeah, anyways, go ahead.
You see Jeremy Clarkson genuinely, like, care about his farm, and that just makes it all the more better. The only cons I really have is, like I said, flies by a mile a minute, and you're not going to be able to catch everything. It feels a touch longer than maybe it has to be, and there's some storylines that aren't as interesting.
It was like 42 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then as much as I enjoyed it, it didn't feel like I had to watch another episodes of this. I feel like I kind of got it. I wouldn't be against it, but it's not going to be a show that I, like, go back to and watch the full thing to. That being said, I will give it an 8 out of 10, though. It was entertaining to watch, and I can understand why it has the success that it does.
Great. Okay. Well, it's interesting. The reviews themselves are very independent to the papers. In fact, the Independent actually did, like, a lot of local stuff. Not as much. I think all the big time, like the Hollywood Reporters, all those had gotten their reviews out of the way in the first season and didn't come back to, like, re-up them in the second season. But it still seems to be very popular. It still seems to be very liked. And despite Amazon ending its contract, I think, with Clarkson really recently, he has said via Twitter that there might be a season 3. So it just might be on a different platform.
Okay, maybe like BBC, because I know that that's where.
I don't know if he has a good, relationship with Grand. I thought that Grand Tour was also part of Amazon.
No, the Grand Tour was Amazon Top Gear is what I meant to say.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to go back to the place that. Okay, whatever. But that's it for this episode. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. Bye.
Bye.